Kody Brown sits ramrod straight at the defense table, his jaw clenched so tightly it might crack. His fingers quiver under the desk, restless, ill at ease. The man who once wore loud confidence in his very gait now stares straight ahead, his eyes empty, like someone who already knows the end of this story, and it isn't a happy one. Robin isn't sitting next to him. She sits a few rows behind, her lips pressed into a thin line, the color bleached from her skin, as if she's pushing something back. Fear, anger, perhaps both. Across the room, Christine fixes forward in her chair, chin raised high. Her gaze is firm, harsh, and with a targeted focus upon the man who was once her husband. There is no faltering there, no softness remaining. Janelle keeps her eyes lowered, her lips move just a bit, maybe a quiet prayer, maybe just slow, measured breaths to keep herself together. Mary hasn't spoken since she arrived. She sits in the shadows at the back of the courtroom, still and silent, her expression impossible to read. Then the judge enters. Everyone stands up. State of Arizona versus Kody Brown, the bailiff says. Charges include fraud, coercion, psychological abuse, and unlawful spiritual union with a fifth party not previously disclosed. A wave of gasps ripples through the room, but not for the fraud, not even for the abuse. It's those last 4 words that come across like a thunderclap. A fifth party. The wives exchange looks of shock, all but one. Christine doesn't bat an eye, not a twitch. She knew this day would come. Actually, she's the reason it finally did. If you thought the sister wives drama wrapped up neatly with a few divorces and tearful confessions, think again. What happened behind closed doors made television look like child's play. The camera sweeps around as a side door opens creakily. Click, click. Heels cross the courtroom floor. A woman in a navy blue dress steps inside, mid-30s, dark brown hair nicely styled. Whispers spread throughout the crowd, as most don't recognize who this is. But Robin freezes. It's instant, as if she saw a ghost. Christine's face tightens, the muscles of her jaw flexing. Janelle blinks rapidly, fighting off tears. In the shadows, Mary closes her eyes, just for a second, but it's a long, painful second. This is her, the woman who was never supposed to exist, the fifth wife. 6 years previously, she came into Kody's life under innocent circumstances. She was introduced as a family friend, somebody from another branch of the faith. She would appear quietly at gatherings, soft smiles, respectful nods. Kody said she was seeking guidance. Now she is seeking justice. Today, she doesn't speak, not yet. First witness for the prosecution, Christine Brown. The room falls silent as Christine gets up and approaches the witness stand, sure-footed yet careful, like a person crossing a field they knew was full of buried explosives. She is sworn in. First to take the stand is Prosecutor Dana Corrado, cool, calm, and collected, and sharp as a tack. Mrs. Brown, she asks, how long were you spiritually married to the defendant? 26 years, Christine responds. And when did you leave the marriage? November 2021. Why? Christine swallows, then brings her gaze up to Kody. Because I realized I wasn't his wife anymore, she says evenly. Not really. I was just coverage, a face for the show, a shield for his secrets. The truth doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers, until it cracks you open. Kody squirms in his seat. His attorney leans in, speaking to him in urgent tones, but he waves her off. And what secrets are we talking about? Dana asks. Christine pauses. She breathes in, closes her eyes. You can almost see the storm building beneath her calm. He told me not to question him, she says finally, not to snoop. He said he was doing God's work. And when I did question him, he isolated me. He told the kids I was weak, disloyal. He even told Robin to keep me away from the house. Christine turns slightly, locking eyes with Robin. You remember that, don't you? Robin says nothing. Her hands shake in her lap. Dana walks slowly in front of the jury. I mean, did you ever suspect there was another wife? She asks. Christine nods, her jaw tight. Yes, but I didn't have proof. Not until 2 years later. She reaches into her bag, pulls out a folded paper, yellowed and the edges worn thin. His handwriting, she says. A marriage contract. Not legal, spiritual. Same format we all had. She takes a breath. This one was dated 2017. Whispers ripple across the courtroom. Dana takes the document gingerly and presents it to the judge. "Do you know who the woman named in this contract is?" she asks. Christine's gaze wanders toward the back row. "She's in this room." Secrets can rot in silence, but when spoken, they burn. Mary looks down at her toes and clasps her hands tightly into her lap. Unshed tears glimmer in her shining eyes. The judge orders a brief recess to read the document. Christine steps off the stand. She lets out a shaky breath, finally out in the hallway. Her daughters stand nearby, arms crossed, jaws set hard. They're grown now, old enough to understand what their father did, but knowing the truth doesn't make it hurt any less. Back inside the courtroom, Kody refuses to look at the paper. Straight-faced, rigid, he stares directly ahead, as if the act of ignoring it might make it disappear. When the judge returns, the room snaps back to attention. "I find this document credible enough to proceed with further testimony," the judge says evenly. "The name listed on this spiritual union, Jayla Thomas, is now a person of interest." It hangs in the air like a warning bell. Jayla doesn't flinch, nor does she react. She just stares straight ahead. Dana Corrado continues. "We will now start witness scheduling for Ms. Thomas, as well as further questioning of the spouses in chronological order." That's Janelle. The color drains out of her face. She looks physically sick at the thought. Before anything else can happen, the judge turns his attention directly to Kody. "Mr. Brown," he asks, "do you want to respond to these allegations now?" Kody doesn't move until Robin leans forward and whispers something into his ear. Whatever she says is like a ton of bricks to him. In an instant, his expression changes from stone cold to astounded. He gets up slowly and utters just 5 words. "She wasn't supposed to talk." That's it. Christine doesn't look victorious. Christine looks heavy, like someone who has carried years of secrets, held a family together by fraying threads, and finally feels it snap. As she sits back down, her hands shake enough to notice. The clerk swears her in again. Again, Dana Corrado comes forward in a calm but weighted tone. "Mrs. Brown, if I may refer to my notes, we left off with your discovery of the spiritual marriage document. You identified the handwriting as belonging to Mr. Brown and that it was dated 2017. Now let's discuss what happened before you found it." She stops. "Let's talk about the betrayal." Christine doesn't respond immediately. She looks up into the gallery, toward her daughters, then back to the judge. She adjusts the microphone. She says, "I'll tell you everything. It all started in Flagstaff." By late 2019, Christine felt the distance growing. Janelle was pulling away quietly. Mary had already checked out emotionally. Robin, meanwhile, was closer to Kody than ever, but something still didn't add up. And then Kody started to disappear. He called it faith missions, for days sometimes. He said he was meeting with elders, but Christine knew better. He wasn't bringing his scriptures. He wasn't sharing revelations. He was not being truthful. He was hiding. One night, upon his return from one of those trips, Christine asked one simple question. "You were with her again?" Kody froze, but it wasn't guilt that crossed his face. It was anger. "You don't question me like that," he snapped. "You've forgotten your place, her place." In that instant, something inside Christine snapped. Sometimes it is not one explosive betrayal that ends everything. Sometimes it's 1,000 quiet ones, stacked in the dark, that do. She continues, her voice shaking but steady. "He controlled us," she says, "all of us. Emotionally, financially, every conversation, every decision had to go through him. If we disagreed, we were disobedient. If we spoke up, we were divisive." She pauses, then adds, "He used our faith like a leash." Kody fidgets uncomfortably in his seat, but says nothing. Dana leans forward. "What about Robin? Did she know?" Christine nods slowly. "I believe she knew," she says. "Maybe not every detail, but she always protected him." Robin's eyes fill. She shakes her head just lightly. "He told her Jayla was a spiritual calling," Christine continues, "that our faith allowed it, but he never told the rest of us. He said if we found out, it would destroy the family." Christine raises her chin. "And that's when I knew," she says quietly. "He didn't care about us. He cared about his image. You can survive heartbreak. Most people do, eventually. But betrayal leaves a different kind of mark, the kind you trace again and again, even years later." Then Christine drops the first real bombshell. He made my daughter lie for him. The courtroom gasps as one. Dana's face tenses up. Your daughter? She asks cautiously. Christine nods, her voice steady but strained. Yes, she was 16. A low murmur spreads through the room. He asked her to help cover his location when he was visiting Jayla, Christine continues. Jayla told her it was God's will. She told my daughter to say they were on a father-daughter retreat. Christine wipes her eyes now. Her voice is shaking. She cried for 3 days afterward. She thought she was going to hell. She thought it was her fault. In the gallery, one of Christine's daughters silently breaks down, clutches her arm while her shoulders convulse. The judge bends forward, his voice serious. Was this reported at the time? No, Christine says quietly. I was too scared, and I was already broken. At the defense table, Robin is whispering, only this time not to Kody. She's speaking urgently to her attorney. Christine doesn't flinch. She just returns to her seat. The damage is done. Now it's his turn to feel powerless. The judge takes a deep breath and says again, "We shall sift through this evidence and schedule a full forensic analysis," the judge says gravely. If confirmed, additional charges may be added. Nobody says anything. Then the door of the courtroom opens. Mary enters. Slowly, she walks in. Yet there's a difference in her now. Softer, calmer, like someone who has finally decided to stop running from herself. She approaches the bench. "Your Honor," she says softly, "I have something to submit as well." The judge nods. Mary hands him the leather-bound journal. "He kept notes," she says. "I don't know why I held on to them. But I think it's time I stop protecting the wrong people." She turns away and walks back, not to the wives' row, but to sit beside Jayla. Jayla looks surprised. Mary suddenly bends down, a whisper. "I'm so sorry. I should have known. I should have said something." Jayla nods once. That's all. Then the judge speaks again, and what he says freezes the room. "I will take these new materials under advisement, but based on what I've reviewed so far, I am ordering an emergency financial investigation into the Brown family assets." He pauses. "Effective immediately." As always, Dana Corrado rises, calm and measured. "Mr. Brown," she asks, "do you think that you have been a good husband?" Kody exhales abruptly, his manner indignant from the question itself. "I believe I've done the best I could under impossible circumstances." "Impossible circumstances?" Dana echoes. "Like loving 5 women at once?" He shoots back. "No," says Kody decisively. "Like trying to be a prophet in the family of atheists." A murmur ripples through the courtroom. Christine's eyes flash. Janelle's jaw tightens. Jayla doesn't budge. "Define prophet, Mr. Brown," Dana says. "I was chosen," Kody responds, his voice elevated. "Called to lead, to unify, to multiply. My calling was higher than their comfort. They stopped listening, so I adapted." Dana raises an eyebrow, tilts her head slightly. "Adapted?" He nods. Jayla was obedient. The others were fractured. "You manipulated, isolated, and emotionally damaged women who trusted you," Dana replies. "How is that spiritual leadership?" Kody leans forward, narrowing his eyes. "They needed structure. Control is the most dangerous when masquerading as fate. Christine can't hold back any longer. Your structure nearly broke our children." The judge nods. "You'll have time for closing statements, Mrs. Brown." But the cracks are already clear. Dana presses on. "Why forge Christine's signature?" Kody shrugs. "She was leaving. I had to protect the family assets." "And by family," Dana says steadily, "you mean you and Jayla. I mean the legacy." Suddenly, Robin stands. "You mean yourself," she cries. Everyone turns to her. She's crying again, but this time there's no careful performance, no fragile control. Just years of pain spilling out all at once. "You didn't protect us," she says tearfully. "You destroyed us." Kody looks away. Then, one after another, the women speak. First to speak is Janelle. The years of swallowing her words, the gaslighting, the financial traps that held her down. I stayed because it was easier than starting over, she says in a quiet voice. But easy is just another word for empty. Christine follows, firm, composed, unshaken. You told me if I left, no man would ever love me, she says. But I learned something. Love isn't something you fear. Love doesn't threaten. She looks straight at him. You weren't my husband. You were my prison. Mary steps last, slow. I blamed everyone else, she admits. Robin, Christine, even Jayla. But the truth is, I didn't want to see who you really were, because that would mean admitting I gave you everything and you gave me nothing. Sometimes the toughest truth to face belongs to the one buried underneath it the longest. The judge finally turns to Jayla. She doesn't speak. Instead, she raises her hand with the wedding band that had been kept hidden for years. Slowly, deliberately, she takes it off and lays it on the table. She says nothing. She doesn't need to. That silence explains it all. The judge gathers his papers to make his final remarks. Given the forged legal documents, the testimony provided, as well as evidence of emotional manipulation supported by multiple witnesses, he says steadily, I will be forwarding charges of fraud and coercive control for further review by the Attorney General's office. He turns directly to Kody. Your legal rights will be advised pending that investigation. Christine lets out a slow breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Janelle closes her eyes. Robin breaks down into silent tears. Mary just stares on at the man she once built her whole life around. Then, before the gavel can fall, the courtroom doors open. Everyone turns. A young man comes in, pale, nervous, determined. It's Peyton, Christine's son. He holds up a USB drive in his hand. He says, I got something. You gonna want to see this. The judge nods to the clerk. The USB is inserted. The screen flickers to life. The room fills with grainy security footage, a private camera, time-stamped March 2021. Kody's voice continues, but he's talking informally now to somebody off camera. If they leave, they get nothing. We bury it in shell companies. Robin's name, Jayla's address, offshore. They'll cry, but they'll come crawling back when the money runs out. The courtroom falls dead silent. Not a whisper, not a breath. Truth has consequences. This one brings financial, emotional, and legal weight with it. The judge looks shaken. Then Dana does too. Even Robin's knees buckle slightly. Christine just nods. This time, they heard him say it with their own ears. The gavel slams down. Court is adjourned. Formal review starts on Monday. This is not over. The women leave one by one. No talking, no tears. They've moved past that stage. Kody stays behind at the table, staring at the screen, at the USB still plugged into the system. For the first time, he looks small. There is nothing quite as haunting as a family mourning something still alive. 2 days pass. The footage, the betrayal, the verdict hanging in limbo. And yet, Kody Brown hasn't been arrested. The wheels of justice are turning, but they are turning too slowly for the women who once adapted their lives to his gravitational pull. Christine sits in a motel room, eyes red, clothes neatly folded on the bed, untouched. Across from her sits Peyton, the son who delivered the final blow to Kody's defense, staring blankly at the wall. Do you regret it?" Christine says quietly. He doesn't answer at first. Then he says, his voice barely above a whisper, "No, but I don't feel better. Sometimes the truth does not set you free. Sometimes it just shows you how big the cage really was." Meanwhile, Jayla gets a court summons, not as a victim, as a mother. The court wants to establish paternity and custody of her 2 minor children fathered by Kody. It is the part of the story nobody is ever prepared for, the part where innocent children become pieces on an adult chessboard. Her daughter is 5 and her son 8. Every night he asks why his dad doesn't come home anymore. Jayla doesn't answer, because some explanations cut deeper than silence. Jayla sits across from Kody for the first time since she testified in a closed custody review. He doesn't look at her until she pulls a crayon drawing from her bag. It's from their son. Stick figures labeled me, mommy, and dad. Jayla puts this on the table without uttering a word. Kody flinches, looks away, then looks back. At last, he speaks. I want custody. Jayla freezes. You don't even speak to them, she says quietly. I'm still their father. She leans forward, her voice low, but refuses to back down. No, Kody, you're their DNA, not their father. Blood connects people, but it doesn't raise them, protect them, or love them. Suddenly, a second bomb falls. A will is found. Prepared by Kody 2 years earlier, filed secretly through a private Flagstaff law firm, never shared with the family. This is a document outlining how his assets, show earnings, properties, LLC accounts, would be divided in the event something happened to him. Christine, nothing. Janelle, nothing. Mary, $500, marked as loyalty compensation. Robin, full co-beneficiary with Jayla. Children, only from Robin's and Jayla's households. Janelle lets out a broken laugh when the attorney reads it aloud. He erased us, she says softly, and made it legal. You don't realize how disposable you were until someone writes it down. That night, Robin calls an emergency meeting. Just the 4 of them, Robin, Christine, Janelle, and Mary. No lawyers, no cameras, just the women. They meet in the basement of a church. Same old walls, same folding chairs. Except the women sit